Folks, I am so excited to welcome to the new Abnormal Chasten, who is the author of a new young adult book entitled I Have Something to Tell You. And it is about acceptance and self-love and your own journey of coming out and the kind of village that you were able to create in order to make the courageous decision to come out. Chasten, I want to start off with the fact that there was a time in the beginning of the early 2000s where a campaign was started entitled It Gets Better. It Gets Better was created in response to a rash of suicides of LGBTQ youth at the hands of being bullied in their schools, whether it be by children or by administration. Come out with this campaign, tell them that it gets better, because we wanted to believe that it did, that if you just make it to, adulthood as a queer person, ta-da, life will be, kind of rainbows and sparkles and things will be great. Fast forward now to a decade plus later, things don't seem better. Just give me your opening thoughts on where we were and where we have backslid to.
Yeah. Well, my book doesn't come out for 2 weeks, so I hope it hasn't been banned yet. But I am under no illusions of the people that we're dealing with. And especially, given the fact that multiple stories are being banned with LGBTQ characters or by LGBTQ authors, I very much am aware of the landscape that we're dealing with. And I know what you're saying about it gets better. I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was such baloney, right? Like, what do you mean it gets better? Because from where I'm standing, I'm getting pushed into the lockers, being called the F word. I'm watching my religious friends and hearing things in youth group, in 4-H, in school from my peers that, gay people are a disease, gay people are disgusting. All we knew growing up was that gay people were to be othered and ostracized.
And harmed.
Right. And harmed. Yeah. So when people would say it gets better, I didn't know how to believe them. And by writing this book, it is certainly my goal to help younger people understand that it does get better, and to take a deep breath and examine that it actually did get better. It got a lot better. And because it got better, a lot of people are trying to make it worse. Because people started coming out of the closet, because we were granted things like marriage equality, because many of us are working to create a world in which trans people can exist safely and openly, because we have gotten more people on board with this idea of inclusion, the people who are afraid of that are trying very hard to make it worse. It is because it got better for some of us, not for everyone, right?
Right.
What's the end destination for better? But it was getting a little bit better. And I think because more people got to maybe take a peek at or feel the other side of inclusion, now you have an entire political party who, rather than focusing on making life easier and better for people, are honing in on very, very vulnerable people, especially youth, to try to make it worse, because it is more advantageous for them to do that than the real work of legislating and making life better in this country.
I think about the fact that, teachers who are fleeing the classroom, as you are a former educator as well, fleeing the classroom because they're afraid. Librarians, we're attacking librarians and charging them with criminal conduct for providing a book. And so when I think about the fact that your book comes out in 2 weeks, and right now in Florida, Ron DeSantis's quote unquote, "Don't Say Gay" bill has now been extended all the way to 12th grade. And we know that he is using this, and the domino effect that has come from this passage of the initial legislation and now passage of this next piece, the domino effect has been, it's parents' rights. It's parents' rights, Chasten, to say what I want my child to learn and not to learn. What do you say to that very false narrative that they have created, and frankly, which has gotten people elected like the governor in Virginia to say it's parents' choice and parents should have this responsibility? What do you say to that as a parent yourself and a former educator?
Yeah, well, parents have always had the right. And I think there are a lot of teachers in this country who are, taking a step back and looking at this argument saying parents should have a voice. Parents should be able to know what their kids are learning. You have always had that right. And I know what it's like to hold parent-teacher conferences and have 1-2 parents come. where I wish more parents were involved. I wish more parents wanted to talk to me about what we're reading, what we're studying, and how I could use their help in the classroom. But parents have always had that right. Nothing is being taken away from them. And I certainly have benefited as a teacher having those conversations with parents who have had, concerns about certain content in the classroom, whether or not they wanted to be interested in the books that we were reading and why the books were selected. I remember having a professor of English whose kid was in my class, and they just wanted to know why I chose the books that I chose. And I really liked having that conversation. But parents have always had that right. And as a teacher and as a parent, I know that I would never put my kid in a position where something would be age inappropriate. And as a teacher, I certainly would never wish to choose something that was age inappropriate. Teachers are professionals. They are educated, highly skilled professionals who are not there to push an agenda. They're there to raise the next generation of American citizens. So reframing this attack as parents' rights is false.
Right.
Because the right has always been there. Teachers have always wanted the input from parents, whether it's helpful or not sometimes, right? Because I know some of us are, used to some of the helicopter parents.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have always wanted parents to be involved because we only have your kid in class 6-8 hours a day, and we need your help at home continuing that education. But I think it's a way to, of course, restructure an argument to make people feel like something has been taken from them, when in fact it's been there all along.
What do you think about, in your book, I Have Something to Tell You? That is oftentimes how we, as queer people, when we are coming out, we begin the conversation with, in my case, it was sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it was sit down and then I have something to tell you. What harm do you think is being done right now? And what are you hearing, I guess, from young people, from parents about the fears that they have for their kids? Because I know for me, when I came out, so many moons ago, my parents, their biggest fear was that they just wanted me to have all of the opportunities and love and life that they were able to have as straight people. Their initial reaction was one of fear for my safety.
Right.
Now we are seeing their fears actualized. And so what are you hearing from young queer kids that look up to you, that look up to Pete, and families about how to navigate this really difficult time?
Yeah, when my mom finished reading this book, she called me and said, I wish I could have saved you from all of that pain. My coming out story, had its bumps. I was so terrified and embarrassed and worried that I would lose everyone and I would embarrass them that I ran away from home. But I actually had parents who picked up the phone and called me back a couple months later. So you need to come home. We will figure this out. They had no idea what it was like to be gay in America. They had no idea how to raise a gay kid. They had no idea what to do, but they knew that they loved me and they wanted to figure it out. And that's why I'm alive today. And now I hear that from other parents around the country. What do I do? I'm so terrified. The one thing I will say that you can do right away if you're a parent is have the conversation with your kid so that they don't spend, like me, 18 years of their life wondering whether or not you will love them should they reveal this truth about themselves. I could have benefited from a 10-second conversation with my parents where if they had said, sit down, we want you to know that we love you. We will love you no matter who you are or who you love. There was always space in this house for you, and you don't have to be afraid in this house. We will always fight for you, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine what that would have done for 12, 13-year-old me. But instead, I spent 18 years feeling like I was, going to be their biggest disappointment. This is a season for active allyship. And active allyship looks different for everybody. But for parents, you got to make sure your kids know that you love them. And that requires having a conversation. I think a lot of allies assume that, I love everybody. I stand up for everybody. Mm-hmm. But if you're not doing the work, posting a meme on social media doesn't help. Visibility is helpful. But in this season, we need you to go to school board meetings. We need you to go to city council meetings. We need you to push back. You can't let the burden fall on the shoulders of the people in that community. So this is a season for active allyship from non-LGBTQ people as well. And I certainly understand why so many parents and teachers are afraid, and we have to find ways to show up for them. I was looking at, I'm doing a book event in my hometown in Traverse City, Michigan, and there's no PFLAG chapter there. And that's a great thing that parents can do. Join your local PFLAG chapter. And if there's not one, start one so that at least you can find community amongst parents like you. You know, there's phenomenal resources through GLSEN for educators. But for all of us, I think we just have to take a moment and think about, how am I actively showing up for my community or for the people that I love? And that can be time spent, that can be dollars spent, that can be, resources or privilege spent, but it's got to be more than social media posts.
Yeah. I want to switch gears for a moment because I think that oftentimes people assume that because you are a part of the LGBTQ community, that then you have a deep understanding about what it's like, for instance, to be trans, to be a trans American right now. And while we say, with the umbrella term, there are attacks on LGBTQ youth and LGBTQ people, specifically, it is trans people, trans youth that are being attacked. And so within our own community, there have been bias and discrimination. It's why trans people have always been the low-hanging fruit. We can attack them because they're not even, quote unquote, understood within their own community. So what do you say as a gay man, as a gay person, about specifically what is happening to trans people? And for those that say, well, I don't know a trans person, or I don't understand this thing, quote unquote, what do you offer to them?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was campaigning around the country, it was really important for me to get that moment right, because I am a white, cis, gay man. I do not know what it is like to go through life as a trans person. I don't know what it is like to go through life as a Black trans person, or any queer person of color. So instead of pretending that I got it, I took a moment and I said, I want to surround myself with people who can help me learn and be a better ally to everyone in my community. I sought out opportunities to have those conversations. I reached out to people who could educate me on issues that I might not have been aware of or that I have never lived myself. When we're confronted with something new and different, we have a choice. Are we going to approach it with an open mind and an open heart? Or are we going to surround ourselves with people who only, look like us, pray like us, love like us, and think like us, and push everything else away? And I think what you have happening right now, especially on the other side of the aisle, when you're confronted with something new, I wish that they would pause and put empathy ahead of culture wars. I had no idea what it was like to be a trans person. A couple of years ago when we're campaigning, it was so important for me to surround myself with people who could help me. And when you're presented with new challenges and questions about the existence and the healthcare of other people, I wanted to learn as much as I could because I cared about keeping people alive. I care about the existence of other people. I care that I have a privilege that can be shared. I can use this platform right now and talk about it, that some other people can't. So on the other side of the aisle, I wish that they would just put the culture war down for a second, talk to a trans person, have a round table. When's the last time that you sat down, rolled up your sleeves, and in the classroom, as we said, turned your listening ears on?
Yes, listening ears.
And truly tried to empathize with the existence of other people who want nothing more than to just exist safely and freely in this country. And I certainly, you are right that there is also discrimination in our wider acronym. But what I'm trying to get other people to understand is that we are all part of this acronym. I think that the LGBTQIA plus growing acronym is actually 25 letters because we're everything but S. Mm-hmm. If you're not straight in this country, you are going to be lumped into a group of othered people.
Yep.
And you have to stand up and fight for other people who are being othered, because we're all on the same side here. And if you have questions about other people, then you need to do the work and learn how you can be a better ally, and also maybe just learn about the existence of other people. And if you have questions about trans people, a great place that you can start is research rather than fear, bigotry, or hatred, or piling on social media. So I think a lot of people have, some work to do. And unfortunately, we live in this season of fast evolving media, and it is, these people make a lot of money off of it. They get their clicks off of it. They get their clickbait, they fundraise off of it. And it's just fear. And so we're talking about vulnerable youth in this country, oftentimes in states where we might only be talking about 2 kids.
Right. But we're creating
Right.
legislation as if it's as if
The
it's an
number one
army we're
priority,
trying
yeah.
to combat.
Yes.
Chasten, with just the couple of minutes that I have left with you, you, Pete, your family have been attacked over the course of, since you all stepped into public life, and the vitriol is getting worse. And I want to know how you think these days about our politics and about just our safety, and the fact that wanting to utilize, if it's a platform like mine, with a podcast, if it is yours, like how we keep good people in the fight when the times seem to be getting increasingly perilous.
Yeah. When I talk to young people about this, I always say, like, I'm a grown up and I still don't have it all figured out. Like, I grew up with a litany of Tucker Carlsons. So I understand, or I have felt, for years what it is like to have your existence and humanity questioned, for people to poke at you by, for simply existing. And when I talk to young people, I talk about how, like, I don't have it all figured out. I certainly can have my bad days, but my existence, the fact that I exist, is a miracle because I didn't let them shove me back into the closet. The fact that you exist and that you're happy is a form of protest. So when I'm walking down the street with my kids and I'm pushing the stroller, I'm going to the playground and someone has something to say, or, some people on the other side of the aisle who don't know how to do their job, so they're just on Twitter all day saying something, like, I love that you're so unhappy because I'm happy. I love being a dad. I love this life. I love that I'm alive. I love that I made it. I made it out of the closet. I fell in love. I got to become a dad. I've done all these incredible things in my life that I'm so, so grateful for. And my existence is a form of protest. For anybody in the queer community, the virtue of you being happy is a form of protest. And that's why for us, it is just important to live our lives openly and happily, not only to show other people that you can have it, but to show other people that we're not going anywhere.
I love that. I love it so much. I adore you, Chasten. And folks, the book is I Have Something to Tell You on acceptance, self-love, and resources for parents and teachers. Chasten Buttigieg, you're fantastic. And I wish you all of the luck on a brilliant, safe, and joyous book tour.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.